Hi, my name is Jasenia Rodriguez, and I will be talking about firms and their production decisions, intermediate microeconomics. The differentiation between a firm, company, and industry is a firm is an entity that combines a set of inputs to produce a good or a service for sale in the market. A firm can be remembered as a small business owner or a local business, whereas a company who have shareholders and are registered could be McDonald's or Amazon. And then an industry is a group of firms doing business in the same field. What are inputs? Inputs are labor, which include physical and or intellectual, capital, machinery used to produce, buildings, delivery trucks, land is needed to produce, and materials which are raw. So an example of physical labor can be a construction worker or a mover, whereas an intellectual labor can be a secretary or a lawyer. Capital can be the crane used in construction sites, whereas a computer desk can be used for the secretary or the lawyer in an office. Land can be any fields of agriculture such as corn, potatoes, and then materials which are raw can be wood to make furniture or eggs in a bakery. Production functions, short and long run. So a production function is a mathematical expression of maximum output that results from a specific amount of each input. Q here stands for output. The F symbol stands for some functional form. So this expression reads as output equals some functional form of labor, capital, material, land. The textbook provided an example of a child selling lemonade where the output was the cups of lemonade, which equals some functional forms of materials which were lemon, sugar, water, and labor. For a consumer choice problem, we typically use two functions, which are labor and capital. Fixed input is that cannot be changed or adjusted by a firm at any given time, whereas a variable input is an input that can be adjusted by the firm at any given time. Remember that fixed input do not change in the short run, and it represents the straight line in the graph. And the variable input has room to change. The line can shift up or down with the added or subtraction of the variable inputs. By adding the variable and fixed inputs, you get the total input. Short run is a time period which an input is fixed. In long run, a time period is long enough where all inputs can be adjusted. Law of diminishing marginal return states that if a firm increases input while holding all others constant, the marginal product of the input will start to get smaller. In the first blue X, you can see that the firm is producing the most output. And when an additional input, let's say labor, is added to the output will decrease since all constants remain the same. So the more labor is added, you can see the law of diminishing marginal returns having a negative input in the firm. Isoquant is a curve that shows all possible combinations of inputs that produce the same output. They have four properties, which are isoquants that represent greater output are farther from the origin. Isoquants do not cross each other. Isoquants are downward sloping, and isoquants do not bow out. Three types of production function and their related isoquants. Some goods can always be used in place of one another. This is known as the perfect substitute, and they are the straight lines on the graph. Different brands of salt or sugar, and at times it can be coffee, such as instead of purchasing Starbucks, you would purchase Dunkin'. An example of a perfect complement is fixed proportion production function is where the laborer is needed in conjunction with the capital, such as a forklift and its driver. So this is the driver and the forklift. In most cases, these are specialization labor. Not just anyone can be hired to work as a forklift driver, and in majority of the cases, these drivers are required to be certified. The Cobb-Douglas function that we used to describe consumer choice with the preference for variety assumption is used for just such a production process, or widely used to represent the technological relationship between the amounts of two or more inputs, particularly physical capital and labor, and the amount of output that can be produced by those inputs. In the following functions, the A stands for the total factor productivity. Alpha and beta are positive constants. Alpha and beta are the output elasticities of capital and labor, respectively. Alpha plus beta equals 1, meaning that doubling the usage of capital and labor will also double the output. The decreasing return to scale, alpha plus beta less than 1, occurs when the output increases by a smaller proportion than the increase in inputs. The increasing returns to scale, alpha plus beta greater than 1, is when the output increases by a greater proportion than the increase in input. Thank you.